Yeah.
For Spanish Affairs. Today we are greeted and accompanied by Doctora Maria Duarte. Doctora Duarte has a PhD in Latin American Studies from Cal State Los Angeles, as well as a BA in U.S. Mexico history from Universidad Michoacana in Morelia, Mexico. Her research in U.S. Mexico diplomatic relations during the 19th century informed her teachings of U.S. New Mexico, the American West, and Latin American history courses at Yale. He publishes both in English and Spanish on topics related to diplomacy, migration, and law in the American West at the turn of the 20th century. Her intensive research makes her a perfect educator for today's event. Without further ado, Dr. Duarte, you may have the floor.
Thank you, Campus Live. Thank you all for spending part of your evening with us. I will be talking about Mexican independence. That's what I was asked to talk to you about today. And first off, I would want to start with something that I think you already saw, making sure Cinco de Mayo is not Mexican Independence Day. So make sure we have that out of the way. It's actually September the 16th today. So yeah, I tell my students, if you repeat that Cinco de Mayo is Independence Day, I'll disown you. No. Bunch of things that I can talk about, and I will try to make this as quick as possible. But what I want to do is first take a broad view on what was going on in the world around 1770s, so that we can then land on colonial Mexico, look a little bit about the society there, and how, just like the United States, we will have issues with taxes, with an empire that wants to keep control of colonies, and how, again, whatever happened in the European context, in the European theater, will be hitting on the events in the Spanish American colonies, specifically Mexico. So this is a long process. This is not going to be something like the US. Might be something that you have in mind to compare with. It's good as a comparison, but this is, as any other independence movement and process, it's very different. It has a lot of wrinkles. It's messy, long, bloody, and ends up not like in the US with a constitution and so forth and so on. This one ends with a constitutional monarchy. Yes. So very, very distinct, very different. So what we want to peek in the broader context of things, there's this war that I often talk to students about, and it is supposedly the war, a 7-year war, that is going to change the way the world looked on the map and the way they organized both empires and colonies. So kind of in a nutshell, this is a global war. Everyone was affected somehow. And bottom line, the allies of France will be Spain, spending money to keep France against the US, and Spain is going to have a pretty bad time here because helping France paid some dividends, but on the other hand, it left Spain, if you can see this one over here, pretty close to the up-and-coming United States. In other words, 7 years war, victorious Great Britain. France is out of the map, literally, in the continent, and Spain is the one that is going to have to fare with the United States. Each one of these empires are going to end up this war in debt, and you know what's going to happen with the US, in that the Great Britain Parliament is going to impose taxes. Spain is going to do the same to Spanish colonies. So that's something similar that we can think about, how the beginning is Taxes. Difference in Spain, we have the Bourbon group of people, well, this royal family governing the Empire of Spain, wanting to modernize, take a stronger control of the colonies. Taxes are going to come in way of tobacco, for instance, and on indigenous communities. This is going to be important because then we will see how indigenous communities will later on be part of the independence movement. This Bourbon of Spain wanted control, wanted to administer the colonies the best they could. And the idea being that empire colonial relation was such as the colonies exist to provide for the homeland or for the home country or for the mother country. So it is a one-way street, pooling resources. So here is tightening the screws of what was going on in the Spanish colonies. So it's similar to what went on in the 13 colonies, as we know. So people are angry or discontent. Here's another wrinkle in the case of Mexico, called New Spain at the time. Society was mixed, literally mixed. There is also part of these reforms, one that comes about loyalty, in that government posts will no longer go to people born in the Americas, born in New Spain, but only for Spaniards, born and bred in Spain. So immediately you see here a second-class citizenship of sorts coming up, similar to what the American colonists, the 13 colonies, will feel about being, left out. So we got the taxes going, we have economic hits all over the place. However, we will continue seeing the amounts of silver, specifically from Mexico and Peru, on the way to Spain. Spain needed money, very much needed. So on the other hand, if you remember, Spain is now bordering with the restless United States, and those people want land, right? So here is Spain needing to spend more money to fortify, to secure the frontier with that greedy United States. So the situation is laid for future developments, as we know. Society quickly in the New Spain or Mexico. One thing that I tend to highlight is the fact that in Mexico, in Latin America, people were used to look at each other and see that not everyone came in the black and white spectrum. The shades of brown, of color, broadly, are there. So you had this hierarchy, this pyramid. On top, we had those born in Spain. Second, we will have those criollos or Creoles born in the Americas of Spanish background. And those are the guys that are having a hard time. And on the bottom rungs, we have a very large group of people called castas, mixed race. And this is a very interesting chapter that we will not go into, but the mixed race that is going on in the Americas is making people atop, the Peninsulares, born in the peninsula of Spain, a bit nervous. The whiteness is kind of being erased because people are looking more and more like this. So that's broadly what we have. And the guys that are going to lead the movement, because their interests are going to be hit harder, are going to be this rung of criollos who have interest in farm and land, who want to be the lawyers for the government, who want to climb up the ecclesiastical or the church administration. And that's precisely one of the things that we also need to have in mind. the role of religion in this Spanish America is absolutely central to understanding what is going to occur. One of the main things that I want to highlight here is education. Who could have an education? And again, it's the criollos. So this group of people, schooled by friars from specific group of friars called the Jesuits, who had this monumental colleges, who were smuggling in those prohibited or banned books about sovereignty, about the newest ideas back in Europe. So here is where the leaders of the Mexican independence movement will be schooled. In an effort of the government or the crown of Spain to keep control of each and every part of society, those Jesuits are going to be expelled. No more. Because those Jesuits tended to have an allegiance to the Pope, not to the king, whatever. So here is a clear control of each part of society. So, no more education. Then 1804 comes another blow in terms of taxes, but this one takes even a more serious look. It's a forced loan decree, as in, you have money, you have to lend it to me. So here is the promise of the Spanish crown, kind of an IOU. Give us your money and we'll pay 5%. When? Who knows? Spain doesn't have money, right? So this is going to hit very different sectors of society. Those people that had mortgages have to pay them right away, because that's one of the things here. Churches, cathedrals, the religious establishment is going to be pressed on sending the money that supposedly they had, and they didn't have it. They had lent it to the farmers, to someone else. So people will be losing their farms, their properties, and this is not going to come out well. Indigenous peoples too, they tended to have a very well-stocked treasury, so they are going to be hit as well. Anybody that have money have to send it back to the crown. Of course, now that later on they will say it's voluntary / force type of loans here. So discontent is growing, as you can imagine, and those hit are going to be again those criollos, those property owners. So this worked, this reforms worked. It managed to extract, to pull more money from the colonies during the this time, turn of the 1800s even. So that we see the indigenous tribute really going up during those years, and that particular tax on tobacco was also growing amongst other elements here. So mining kept going, it's taxed, commerce or trade. And yes, there's this line, venta de puestos, the selling of official positions. That's how the government used to work. That sort of came down because, again, those positions only needed to go to those born in the peninsula of Spain, not those born in the Americas. So the economy of the colonies, specifically that of Mexico and Peru and others, is hurting. And then we need to go back again to Europe, because this is going to be a turning point, something that is going to accelerate and give more or inflame that discontent in the Americas. Napoleon decided that the people governing Spain were not the best administrators. He didn't like them. They owe him money. They had been friends, but so he's thinking about expanding. And yes, 1808 invades Spain. And then for the rest of the Spanish colonies, well, okay, so we have the loyalty to the King of Spain. if Napoleon is now ruling, do we owe any allegiance to him? Are we relieved? Are we free? So this is going to send shock waves to the colonies. Of course, this is going to be news that will come to the Americas, think about, I don't know, weeks or so. Obviously, things didn't occur that fast. This is something that will stir the Spanish trying to stop this invasion. And here's the famous painter Goya of Spain talking about this defense that the Spaniards put up with no success to Bonaparte's, Napoleon's invasion of Spain, and then the executions that were being carried out all over the place. So Napoleon obviously wanted to be seen as the liberator, so forth and so on. Well, a few things happen here. So Napoleon addresses this, the king of Spain, who will abdicate or give up his throne to Napoleon, and Napoleon will give it to his brother, Joseph. And then we have a new king in Spain. This is going to, again, send the Spanish American peoples, Mexico and other places. What do we do now? Do we obey Bonaparte? We don't know him anything. We don't want to be Bonapartistas or Bonaparte followers. What do we do? We like Fernando the Seventh, Ferdinand. He's our king. The poor guy, many people thought, he was imprisoned by Napoleon, but he had given up his post in exchange for a nice chalet and other benefits. So people were in the colonies and in Spain will be organizing congresses to keep power for Ferdinand or whenever he manages to be free. So independence is not there yet. So here are the different parts of the Spanish Americans, all the virreinatos, viceroyalties, organizing themselves to hold on to Ferdinand VII power and organize congresses, and we're going to wait for you. Yeah, maybe we want to be autonomous, not independent yet. So there's that going on. So that loyalty to Ferdinand is very clear there. Many people will be looking at one specific Congress or junta, that of Cadiz, who is going to be the one that will later on convene all of those viceroyalties to send some representatives to organize a constitution of sorts. New Mexico will have its own representative there, which is a fascinating point as well. Come back to the criollos. So a lot of political activity. People will be meeting as if we're going to have a party, a conversation, but actually what they were doing is coming up, plotting to what do we do? Do we split? Do we not? Do we keep waiting for Ferdinand? What do we do? So we have amongst the main people plotting, we have priests, those educated by the Jesuits, if you recall. We have some generals, some people from the military, and we have mayors, and we have women. So many of those hit hard by the economic policies. Many have lost properties and have seen their careers stalled because they were criollos. They could not move up either within the religious or the military structure. So what do we want? Broadly, take away all of those taxes and equality. And then again, for all born in America. So here is No distinction about, oh, you look darker. In principle, obviously. In practice, that's another thing. But everyone is equal, equality, no slaves. Everyone will be equal. And religion. Everyone ought to be Catholic. So here are some of our main heroes. And of course, priest Hidalgo is going to take the lead. Some say that, okay, they're plotting, they're running around from central Mexico to other cities. And soon enough, they are about to be caught. And supposedly Allende is the mastermind of the movement. Jose Ortiz is the one that tells them, you're going to be caught. They're coming after you, so do something fast, allegedly. So Allende pushes on Hidalgo, you're the priest, people will listen to you, so we either do something now, or we're going to be caught, executed. So, because Hidalgo is going to forcefully come out September the 15th, 1810, and come up with, okay, well, I have to say something, and the guy just goes out there and, oops, let me go here, and gives out this, more or less, because there are differences, what he actually said, but broadly, religion, number one, our Virgin of Guadalupe, Ferdinand VII, long live Ferdinand VII, our monarch. The other part, I think it's absolutely fascinating, death to bad government. Notice the bad government is not Ferdinand. It's the officials who carry out the policies. And of course, there is this anti-Spanish sentiment, death to the Gachupines. So this is what gets celebrated. Independence, and can question that. Not really, because see, it's swearing loyalty to Ferdinand. So here I think we need to stop for a second and think about how people at that time still thought of the king as the good father figure. The bad government are the representatives who carry out the policies and get corrupt and they don't do their job. Those are the bad government, not the king. Just interesting, to say the least. Okay, so here's Hidalgo calling. What is a plan here? There's no specific plan. Seems like everything was hurried, and general population is going to be on board with some of these ideas, obviously, and the priest is the one calling this. So we get a popular rebellion unfolding with no specific strategy, sadly, but with promises and with ideas. Let's get away with taxes, the Indian tribute. You don't have to pay that anymore. Let's see if we can get your lands back, and no more slaves. And of course, this is going to bring a number of people to support this popular revolt, that in the discontent and angriness that they had, they are going to head to the warehouse where grain was kept, and allegedly set that on fire. Supposedly a guy put a stone on his back and he crawled there and set fire to the place. So that's the extent of the anti-Spanish sentiment against those bad government officials. We might think that's nonsense. Why would you put on fire the grain that you can use later? So this is going to scare many people, many criollos, many in Mexico, like, oh my God, this is what happens when you give power to the people, to the enraged masses. This is not good. Hidalgo unleash something that he cannot control. He couldn't. So here we will see how many criollos are going to backtrack and are going to say, I think we better bring the royal troops, because if this is going to continue, what are we going to do here? So this is the first episode of the independence movement. You have something going. The troops obviously arrived. You have a society now split between loyalists and between rebels. You get Hidalgo out of the picture. He's executed, so forth and so on. Terrible death, dismembered. Let's not have a trace of him so that people would not come and worship him or something like that. But as we know, there's always going to be some other leaders. So 1810, 1812. Here is another intent, and this is a very important one, as in a constitution back in Spain. A constitution that will create a division of powers. It will recognize Indians as citizens, yes? So here is a huge leap compared to the constitution of even the United States. And the autonomy for American colonies is going to be rejected. You cannot be self-governed bodies yet, but you have the capacity to organize your own sovereignties. So this is going to be, in a nutshell, a very important constitution that many will follow. Obviously, the US Constitution is going to be followed as well, but many people will be looking at this specifically. The guy who's going to take over Hidalgo is going to be another priest, Morelos. This guy had a plan. He had a more strategic military outlook, and he managed to take upon himself the independence movement for another 4 years without being killed. So he's more of a statesman. We need some organization. What type of government do we want? So the ideas keep going as an equality for everyone. Word is that he was actually an Afro descendant from the coast of Guerrero, and that he had a specific interest in getting that equality for castas or mixed race people. So he will be adamant at abolishing slavery for all the mulattoes. So this is a guy that obviously had read the US Constitution, and it's going to be pushing for a Republican government. By this time, it's clear that Mexico wants independence, and it is fighting for that. So he will pen a number of things like sentiments of the nation, and he will also put together a some sort of constitution that is not going to be adopted broadly, but his military campaigning is one that really gets quite a bit of attention from the Spanish crown. So this is kind of the second stage of Morelos. He'll suffer the same destiny as Hidalgo. He's going to be executed. In this case, he's not going to be dismembered because Spain wanted to know how come this guy was such a marvelous strategist or so. But his death, his execution, is going to put a stop to the movement from 1815 to the next 4 years or so. There'll be scattered groups, but with not a visible leader such as Morelos. So yes, two priests in a row with very different outlooks, and in the meantime, you have the rebels and the loyalists going at it until 1821. This is a long part. The country was bankrupted, Mexico. There's no money. Whatever infrastructure there was, destroyed, crops, economic activities. not a very good picture. Everyone is tired of fighting, so that fatigue allow for the reunion of these two groups, the rebels and the loyalists. Like, we need to stop fighting. Like, we can agree on something. We want independence, don't we? Yes. So let's do that. Let's unite. And what can we come up with? Well, this union is going to put an end to the fighting and is going to proclaim officially the independence of Mexico in 1821. It's going to end the long 10, 11-year struggle with a constitutional monarchy, which is, something that totally differs from the outcome in the United States. Catholicism is going to be there. This agreement gave something to everyone. The idea was you have union, we have religion, and well, we want independence, right? So we need a strong government, and maybe constitutional monarchy, where you have a king, a group of legislators, a senate of sorts, to assist him in his duties. And so we got an emperor. And the republic, mimicking the United States, will come until 3 years later, when Mexico is going to overthrow the emperor, which ended up being another criollo, Agustin I, and 3 years of monarchy will conclude. Many people will try not to talk about this part because Iturbide was, for the longest time, somewhat of a traitor. He was also executed. And then we have 1824, a republic. And then we finally have an elected president who even changed his name to Guadalupe Victoria. Again, the role of religion, right? And this is a guy who managed to fulfill his term in that political difficult times, 1824 to 1828. So Mexico becomes an independent country, a republic, tremendously poor, no money in treasury coffers, needing the recognition of the United States by that time, a very strong presence in the continent, its neighbor. And now Mexico finds itself with all of this territory up north, New Mexico, Texas, all of these places. And how is it going to work? It's going to be difficult. So an independence that might have similarities with the American or the US process in terms of taxes, in terms of the feelings of alienation of its citizens, and, well, a totally different type of leaders. We don't have a Washington here, we have all of those things. We have priests, and we have military men who switch sides and decide to come up with something, and we have a monarchy to finally end up with a republic in 1824. So one of the things that we can perhaps mention is the social elements of this process, focusing on equality and with a very multicultural population that gained citizenship since, well, pretty early on, whereas in the US, it's going to be for a longer time. So I think I will leave it there for and looking forward to any questions. Oh yeah, the last thing. So in the midst of receiving Emperor Iturbide, which, by the way, the guy was elected, many people wanted an emperor. So nuns at one convent decided to come up with specific dish for that occasion. And this is the one that they came up with, called chiles en nogada. Very popular this September, whenever you go to Mexico, maybe you do it at your home. And it has the colors of the flag, obviously, and it is intended to celebrate the conclusion of that long chapter of independence, of death, losses, and the beginning of an independent country. Well, so with that, have any comments or questions? I would. Anything? Mhm.
So lately I have been hearing that Hidalgo didn't look the way we know it is, apparently that was not even like close to, physical image. Is it true? Can you discuss a little about it?
That's a great point. Because of course, we're talking about, see, 1800s, no, camera has nothing like that. So how did people look? And yeah, you might be right. This is a businessman. I was more complicated of a man here. He was into businesses. He was teaching the local indigenous peoples how to do, I don't know, things like beekeeper, other types of entrepreneurial stuff. So he's very close to artisans as well. This is a priest that seemed to be very connected to the community. So yeah, it probably it was not that of the way we see him. But I think you also raise a great point. And I think we as a society, we create the heroes that we want to worship. And this father figure is quite appealing. So this grandfatherly look that people will follow, it's quite right to keep that idea. So I think we're entering into the train of how official depictions of characters such as this ones live through time, and how this is what we call the official history, without giving space, or maybe he didn't look like that. Maybe, that idea of he was pushed, he didn't want to be there. They took advantage of him, or maybe so yeah, that's good. Great point. Any?
One of the craziest things about how Mexico was always falling for the stop of slavery and everything, but even way back into 1400s, Pablo was trying to stop slavery happening from indigenous people, but they kept on going throughout the years.
Yes, that's a great point. And it will continue to be such, even stopped in 1820s, but 1830s will be one of the points of conflict with people in Texas. So Mexico again wanting to hold on to this lands we're standing on, with so fit to open the doors for American colonists. Mind you that many came from the South and they were into this plantation economy, and then they come to Mexico, and then, well, slavery is not accepted here. So what do you do with that? So yeah, and maybe it has to do a little bit with, again, the background of some of this independence hero peoples, but also with the fact that people were used to the many shades of brownness amongst themselves.
I think that's what started with a lot of the Garifunas from that area.
That too.
Yeah. Because the stop of slavery and the indigenous people, somebody had to do the work, so they brought all these African slaves.
Yeah, and even way back, as you mentioned, we recall that there's this rebellion, one of the first rebellions in the U.S., North Carolina, 1745, I believe. the Stono Rebellion. Where were they headed towards? Spanish Florida, because they have heard that slavery didn't exist there. That was the land of freedom. Likewise, when Mexico gets its independence, many will try to get to the border, to move down there. Any other things?
So I always wondered, what was the process, you know, when Mexico gave independence, South Central America was also part of it. So I always wondered, like, what was the process? Cause it was like really fast, you know? Yeah, I don't remember ever in school learning why, exactly. So I just wanted, maybe we could get a little bit more insight, like what happened that, cause I know that Yucatan was like, it's separated, but it didn't necessarily want to be part of the republic. And so I've always wondered, like, what led, cause it's like, actually, today I was telling the students, it's like technically independent state of Central America from Mexico, said well, from Spain, and then also, you know, some folks kind of, that you can get some insight on.
I might not have the full scope of things, but one point that you raised rightly so is that when Mexico declares independence, 1821, it was a really, really big country. So it went up to California and all the way down to Guatemala, I would even say all the way to Nicaragua. So those places decided to join the empire. And that was their decision. Now, when we look at 1824, when the Republic is announced, Guatemala and Nicaragua and the rest of Central America decides to do the same, declare themselves a republic. There will continue to be plenty of issues with borders, specifically with Mexico and Guatemala. To this day, there are issues about the river that runs through them, and no, this was ours, no, that was ours. So that's going to be kind of 1890s situation. So yeah, the connections are there, and the sister republics of Central America will always be then looking at Mexico as, or Mexico also playing the role of kind of an intermediary powerhouse with the US as the big brother. So here's Mexico looking down upon those little countries right there. But yeah, more complicated of a process. They also, Central American people, were present at that Cadiz conference, and that gave them pause to declare themselves. If the Constitution 1812 saying we can have different sovereignties, we too want it. Okay. Yes.
So this is the first time that in Mexico, we have a president that is a woman.
Yes.
So she really made emphasis this time on the role of women in independence. Can you tell us a little about that? Maybe it was something that we have not appreciated enough or valued enough?
Yeah, I had a slide here somewhere. So absolutely, women are central. I think I skipped that part. One of the things that I was going to mention precisely, that having a woman president in Mexico seems that they turn around and try to rescue as many names as possible from that time period. Most of the people involved with the rebels are going to be wealthy people, women that are going to be funding the rebels by selling their own jewelry, serving as spies, delivering messages, that type of thing. So we will have some that are going to pay with their life, others, the more well-to-do, like Josefa Ortiz, or another lady called Leona Vicario, really upper level people will end up being sent to convents to kind of, make the sense or stay there and, society will pardon you at a given point. Others will be executed, obviously. And one of the women that was named, that the president named yesterday, La Capitana, it's one lady that saw action in the battlefield with Morelos. So it's recovering those people. The slide that I had was the example of a family, the Lopez Rayon family. This is another interesting woman, Rafaela Lopez, the mother of 4 sons who joined the rebels. Rafaela gets the message from the Royal Army that if she were to tell that time Morelos to, give himself in or something, they will pardon the life of one of his sons. So something to the effect that she replied, well, I prefer to have a deaf son than a traitor. So, yeah, those families that were really committed and who knew that once you enter into the rebel ranks, you probably will end up dead at that point. So yeah, we know not too much about some of these women, but it's interesting that they're being recovered. Anything else? Yeah.
So is it true that the image of another Vicario is not the real image?
That's another one.
Because I just look at like, it's one of those things because, I always wondered that, because I've heard that many times, so it's not.
Yes.
The image, but it's kind of like, there's topic to find an image of what they thought was her, but I was.
How do we know?
How do we know?
Yes, so what we know about Leona is that pretty wealthy family, very outspoken lady, well read, and she will be one of the main members of a secret society called the Guadalupes. It's all over the place. Put together to assist the rebels. So Leona will be connected to another political figure, Quintana Roo, a rebel, male lawyer, and later will also be committed to a convent to reform herself. She will be claiming back some of the properties that was taken from her after 1821. But what we also can highlight here is she's, this is funny that you guys brought this up. Most of these women, we see some portraits and often they are just painted on their side. It's interesting. For Leona, you have the little chonguito from Leona, and that's how you can tell that's Leona. Josefa also, we seem to have a similar bow here, but it's hard to say. How did they look? I don't think they were the way they looked. But nonetheless.
Wasn't it a big like image issue, like?
Yeah.
Because the white fair skin, I mean, Benito Juarez was mixed native, but he was known for him to wear makeup because they didn't want him to be, he didn't want to look indigenous, so he wore some makeup.
Right, and maybe you might more so referring to Porfirio Diaz.
Yeah.
That guy, yes, talking about the Michael Jackson of Mexico. That was- Yeah, so, yeah.
But Benito was also like, like 1800s, but he was also like very fair, like very dark. they said that he would wear makeup so he'd be compared lighter.
Right.
But that was like an all image, during those times, it's all image.
Yeah, and coming from a society in which whiteness was being diluted,
Yeah,
there's that interest in bringing people in certain levels of society. That's good.
So you remember the 20 pesos bill, the 500 pesos bill,
Oh, yeah,
the bigger parties, the image is different,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, from 20 pesos to 500 pesos.
That's
It's anywhere, it's.
Yeah, the indigenous, and maybe people will have that.
those fashions.
Yeah, yeah, so the indigenous is a big start. Anything else, any comments? Thank you, appreciate it.
Muchas gracias, doctora Duarte. We are honored to have you here and educate us and bring insight into this very historical. Thank you all for being here to learn and thank you for educating us further, doctora Duarte. Before you all go, I do want to remind you that tomorrow will be chocolate shapes with Black Student Union. And on next Thursday, we will be having our Hispanic food truck rally with live entertainment. We can't wait to see you there. Have a good day.